I'm going to give you a quick overview of the center and what our aims are, just to put this in context. And then Amanda Lombardo is going to give you an overview of the actual seed funding program and how it's been operating. So first thing I want to point out, I've shown this a lot of times, but some of you may not have seen it. Digital agriculture is, almost as many definitions as there are people who say they work on digital agriculture, right? So at certain institutions or within certain departments, it tends to mean a certain thing. So I know people who are, oh, digital agriculture, that's phenotyping, right? And at some places that is what it is. But what we want to create here is a holistic view of all the different applications of digital technologies in agriculture, with the common theme not being a specific biological or agronomic application, but the cutting-edge computer technology leveraged to solve and improve agriculture and agricultural problems. To this end, and mostly to try and point this out, we have split into 4 themes, but the themes are extremely broad. So most of the things in my field that I commonly see called digital ag fit into this theme, crops and animals here. Automation is a theme that focuses largely on robotics and self-operating machinery and reducing the need for human labor in agriculture. Data is data science, so that is post hoc analysis of data sets that come out of digital agriculture experiments. And people in ag is anything relating to humans, whether it's workforces or markets or commodities or human behavior related to agriculture. So that whole field of human nutrition, everything like that comes under people. So you can see that each one of these is huge, right? Each one of these encompasses multiple academic departments. But what we're looking for is projects that hopefully apply a novel digital solution to a key problem in one of these areas that has the potential to move things along in a way that wouldn't otherwise happen. We've got a lot of stuff here. I won't go into this. We've got a lot of stuff at Illinois that makes it a good idea for us to have a Center for Digital Agriculture. We've already got quite a lot of experience in digital agriculture. This is the TerraRef gantry in Arizona that was one of the first large-scale digital ag projects, in this case in phenotyping. But you can see that although this was run out of the Danforth Center, who we have other links with, NCSA did the data aspect of this project. And so all of the data management was housed at NCSA. Various different departments, notably crop sciences and animal sciences and ag and consumer economics, as well as computer science and civil engineering, have had various research projects funded that relate to digital ag. But we haven't had any kind of campus-wide coordination of these efforts to try and put people together to solve the key problems. So some of it's happening organically. We're trying to help manage this and help put people together to do it. So there are a lot of changes that have happened in the last 5 or 10 years that are meaning that a lot of digital solutions are more feasible in many aspects of agriculture. Things like rural wireless, robotics and AI, a lot of interest from the private sector all of a sudden, a lot of funding opportunities. So what we want is to make Illinois the leader, the place to go to do all of these things. And we are planning to give seed grants to start up these kinds of projects. It doesn't necessarily have to be a completely new project, although it's easier to justify why you need seed funding if you don't already have a funded project. It doesn't necessarily need to be from any particular domain, although we like to see collaboration. We like to see people from the agriculture side working with people from computer science or engineering, or somebody with a focus on coding and programming and digital technology. And we like to see things that improve the training of the workforce that's going to go out there and make a difference to tomorrow's agricultural technology. And this is something we keep hearing from nearly everyone in the corporate sector, is these people don't exist right now. These well-qualified agricultural research scientists or master's graduates or people with a strong background in agriculture who also know how to code and who also know about algorithms and who can write apps. So this is a key area that we'd like to try and fill, and so training students is a priority in whatever way we can. It doesn't have to be, but it's nice if you can add that in. And that's another key aspect in most of the funding opportunities that we talk about. We have initial funding. It's not going to last for very long. We're going to give out another round of seed grants starting January. We have some facility support from NCSA, which includes a digital collaboratory area, which is a place where students who are in departments where people aren't doing a lot of coding can come spend time at NCSA, get a decent computer, be around people who they can bounce ideas off of and solve problems with. And we are not going to have this money for very long. We plan to spend it quickly, and we plan to continue getting money, and we plan to continue, hopefully, doing some kind of seed grant program. But probably it's not going to be on the same scale. Unless we get a large external grant specifically to continue seed grants, we're probably going to have to slow down. But this time around, we still have the Provost seed money, which we're very grateful for, that we're going to use for this. The idea of doing this is really that you're going to write grants that go through the Center for Digital Agriculture, right? So we have infrastructure support from NCSA, we have admin staff here, we have a budget office. People can give you support with budgets and stuff like that. We do return some ICR to the PIs as well. So if you can write a grant through the Center for Digital Ag that involves multiple departments or themes that make sense at NCSA, and that's an obvious outcome that you need this seed grant to do, that's a huge advantage for your proposal. I'm going to briefly mention all of these workforce development goals, which include partnerships with educational institutions, partnerships with extension. It doesn't have to be a research-led proposal, so we have funded proposals in the outreach and education sector, especially if you have a valid path to getting that funded externally and continuing it after your grant funds end. We have the plan to create the digital collaboratory. We also have a plan to create a digital farm infrastructure. This is not something that exists yet, but if you have ideas about what you think that digital farm should look like and things that you would like to put on a farm, instrumentation, sensors, stuff like that, that would make a compelling proposal potentially. We haven't historically considered equipment proposals. We like the proposals to be for people to do research. However, if this is something that would be shared by the whole center, we contact us and we'll discuss it with you. And then we also want to maximize participation with industry partners. If you have a private sector partner, that's a good thing. And we're trying to leverage extension links in some of the research. The past seed funding effort, we gave out $500K. We got 27 proposals. We funded 13 involving 40 faculty. This round, we probably don't have quite the same budget. So if all of you write a proposal, we're probably going to have at least this level of competition. Pretty much all 27 of those proposals were pretty competitive. So none of them, I would say, were completely something that wouldn't be funded by any campus program. And most of them were very strong. So it was a difficult decision, and it's probably going to be difficult again. So there is competition for this, but we encourage you to try your best and discuss it with us if you're not sure whether your proposal fits. Amanda's going to talk in a little bit more detail about potentially why some of the ones that didn't get funded last time didn't get funded. So we hope to continue this program long term, and we hope that you can help us shape our priorities and keep us up to date with what the latest developments are in the different domains. None of us are expert in any or all of these domains that I've mentioned. If you have a compelling application, you can make a compelling case for it. We want to know about it, and we want to add it to our portfolio. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and take questions, and then after I'm done with questions, I'll hand it over to Amanda. Go ahead.
I'm George Golland from the physics department. I'm an experimentalist and teach a project course, and we're creating a professional master's in instrumentation and applied physics. Now, the question is this: except for mentioning the possible digital farm, you seem to mostly be focusing on data analysis and software. And is that just the way I was hearing it? Because what we're good at is building fairly dense networks of inexpensive sensors and processing it. So that's kind of a natural thing for me to think about. Are you open to sensor development?
Yeah, Vikram has thought more about this than I have, so here, use the
sensor network IoT. Just to repeat the question was, are we focused very much on data, or are sensors, instrumentation, networks of sensors also of interest? And they very much are. We are, for example, the area of automation is not just robots, it's robots and a lot of other things that go with them, as well as a lot of agriculture and farming experiments, both for research and in production, are very sensor intensive. And so being able to do new kinds of sensors, new ways to connect new or existing sensors, new ways to process sensor data, including, for example, machine learning on sensor data at the edge or in the cloud or some combination of those. All of these are very much of interest, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be specifically coding data related. Anything that relates to getting more digital applications in ag, and we've talked quite a bit about sensors actually.
And actually, maybe I'll add one more thing to that, which is that we are planning to create this digital farm that Matt mentioned. We are also putting in some proposals for that, and so we're hoping that in the course of the next 6 months to a year, that will become a real thing. And so if there are interesting sensor-related expertise, yes, infrastructure, anything that can help with that, that would be really welcome.
Okay, I will give you my contact.
I will talk to you more
shortly
about it. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming today. My name is Amanda Lombardo, and I'm the Assistant Director for Research at NCSA, but I've been helping out quite a bit with the Center for Digital Ag as it gets off the ground. So I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about the seed funding program today. Throughout the course of this program, you'll be hearing from myself and also from Melanie Moore, who's sitting here in the front row. So if you see our names, that's who we are. So just an overview of the program, and I think Matt's kind of mentioned some of this already. But we're looking to leverage teams across campus for this seed funding. So this round, we're looking to fund projects up to $25,000 per award for 1 year. And the awards, we don't really have a firm idea of how many we're going to fund. I think we really want to see what comes in and how much funding we have available before we really make those decisions. Like I said, we're looking for interdisciplinary teams with at least two PIs that represent different domain areas. And when we're looking at these proposals, we really want to see that both PIs' expertise is being utilized. It's not really dominant on one side or the other. We like to see these domain areas really come together and leverage each other's expertise. So Matt mentioned the theme areas, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but the proposal should be focused on at least one theme area. Deadline to apply is January 24th of 2020, and we expect decisions to be announced by April 1st of next spring. So as Matt mentioned, we do have 4 main theme areas that we're focused on right now. Crops and animals, data, people in agriculture, and automation. And we did fund proposals across all 4 areas last go around. I think we're expecting to do the same this time. So in terms of PI responsibilities, they're pretty normal, I think, for seed funding projects. We do ask the PIs to submit a mid-year progress report, and we'll send out a form to you that you would complete for this. It shouldn't be a huge burden or anything like that, so no worries about that. And then we would also ask that you deliver a presentation at some point during your award year. For this current round of seed funding, these presentations are actually going to come during the faculty retreat that we're planning for the spring. So we would expect that we would have something similar for the next round of seed funding. Let's see. Proposal preparation and submission. And we will have all this criteria on our website, so don't feel like you have to get it down right now. But these are the required sections that we look for in your proposal. Pretty standard. The abstract, project description, references, biosketches, and a budget and budget justification. We will have the Easy Share link posted on our website, and that's where you'll submit your proposals. As I mentioned, projects can request up to $25K for 1 year. The project budgets do not need to include benefits or tuition remission or overhead or anything like that. Common things that we see requests for in terms of funding are research assistant support, a little bit of faculty summer salary, and then research expenses and travel support. We do ask that you limit the travel support to $1,500. We really don't want to see this be the primary component of your budget. And then, a note at the bottom, funding for capital equipment is not expected to be included at this point, although if you do need some smaller equipment costs covered, that's not a problem. So review criteria, again, we're going to have the full criteria listed on our website, but this summarizes some of the main areas that we're looking at. So does the project address an important problem or a critical barrier in the field? How is the scientific knowledge, technical capability going to be advanced or improved? Does the project include PIs from different domain areas? Again, this is something that we really look for in these projects since we're trying to bring together folks from across campus. As Matt mentioned, we will fund projects that already have an existing collaboration, although I think priority is probably placed on new projects. And then finally, how strong are the plans for future external funding? The more specific you can be about programs that you're targeting, the better, so we understand that you actually have a firm plan in place. Just a few pro tips. This largely comes from what we saw in the last round of seed funding, just some little things that could be improved. Again, follow the proposal preparation guidelines. If you have any questions on these, feel free to reach out to myself or to Melanie, and we can help you with this. Please review the previously funded projects. These are all listed on our website. We just don't want to see any repeats of things that have already been done. Again, be specific about the external funding opportunities and make use of all the domain areas. Again, we want to see a good balance there between the domain areas that are being used. So that is really it in terms of the actual seed funding program. Are there any questions that you have right now?
So I'd also like to say, if you have identified a potential funding opportunity that you would like help with and you think makes sense for CDA, then talk to us about that too. But again, we'd like you to potentially identify those funding opportunities in your proposal, and the more specific you can be, the better.
Yes.
When you talk about different domain areas, are you looking like across departments? Or, can you be more specific about, I guess, what you consider to be different domains?
Do you want to? Sure. So I think we're looking more to see the agriculture combined with the engineering, and just to be broad about it, I guess. It's okay if there are different departments that are combined, but we really want to see that digital being combined with the agriculture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so we do get some proposals that say, I am writing this interdisciplinary proposal with the person in the office next to me, but I'm a weed scientist and they're a soil scientist, so it's interdisciplinary, and that doesn't quite count. So at least across departments, preferably across colleges.
But for example, ag and bioengineering has people doing classical engineering work that could work with people in civil engineering who are doing environmental science, and or people in ag bioengineering who are doing more ag or plant science work. And so I think the point is to be crossing disciplines, not necessarily department boundaries, but in most cases that ends up being department boundaries.
Since we're all here, do you have plans before we all leave to have some kind of speed dating thing where we can see people talk to people we might want to collaborate with?
We didn't have any formal mechanism, but we wanted to encourage that at the end of the session for folks to talk
great,
to each
okay.
other. Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And one thing we can do to facilitate that, if people are interested, is just to get a quick idea of what areas people are in and maybe group them and then have people talk to each other or
Okay.
something like that. But we can try to facilitate that.
So if people are partnering not across disciplines but with private sector, is that interdisciplinary?
If the work is interdisciplinary,
The couple
perfectly
are
fine.
different
Yeah,
expertise.
yeah. If some of the people are in a company, some of the people are in
Right.
the university, but the work is is crossing disciplinary boundaries.
Co-PIs that are not university.
Yes.
Yep, we actually had that last round too as well. So yeah.
So we had one project with 2 people from IBM and 1 or 2 people from, I think 2 people from Illinois, from the university.
It does, I mean, to some extent, we want to see this project potentially turn into a grant to the university, right? So if it's the kind of corporate collaboration where the company is unlikely to either participate in federal grants or publish anything, that probably isn't right.
Also, I should say that we didn't provide any funding to a company person last year, and I think that's probably going to be the same this year. So there's no funding going to the company itself. The funding all stays at Illinois. The projects can span boundaries, so it can be a collaborative project. If that makes sense. Yeah.
If you've identified a collaborator that or a co-PI that has already been funded in the previous round, do you have any restrictions on them being on a new project?
I don't think so.
We don't have any hard restrictions like that. I would say that we'd like to bring in new people, and that is important. But if there were a couple of projects that had people who were funded last year, or even 3 or 4, that would not be a problem.
So we don't want to give all the money to one person.
Or the same people over and over. Yeah.
But there was some of the last round of projects that had maybe 7 PIs.
Yeah,
each
exactly.
PI there is not going to be getting a significant share.
And if I remember right, there was only 1, maybe 2 people who got 2 projects last year. So they may not get funding again, but again, no hard and fast rules.
So what has been the outcome of some of these projects in terms of going to the next level? Do you have any examples of that? Or?
So we are just collecting our midterm reports right now, so going through those to see kind of where the progress is at. And we'll have a better idea after we review those. I think projects, at least some projects that I know of, have really been collecting data and trying to build things up, and now they're getting to the point where they can actually move forward with the project. I expect to hear a lot more progress at the faculty retreat in the spring, and I think that'll give everyone a better sense of what these projects look like and what they're trying to accomplish.
It's only been 4 months or a little bit less since the project started. So it's not even halfway yet. And one project already has a small amount of external funding from what they're doing. A couple of projects have plans to submit proposals that they're already working on. So there are at least a few cases where there's some concrete goals already happening. the other projects, I think we'll learn more, as Amanda said, in March. February 28, right?
Yes.
Yes. Since that has come up, I'd like to give a plug to our research conference, which is going to happen again in the spring. It's going to be on February 28. So please mark your calendars. If you can attend, that would be great. You will see announcements of that pretty soon, I think.
Is there a possibility for putting poster sessions there for those who are not from there?
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to have an open call for submissions. The people who have seed funding so far are likely to make presentations and possibly also have posters. But we will have certainly room for more posters and potentially some additional talks as well. Some of that has not yet been decided.
Vikram, can you elaborate on the case where you had two PIs from IBM, how the university was involved, or perhaps how they can be involved in that project, but it still go through university?
Yeah, it was just a joint project, and they work together, they collaborate. The IBM people are basically covered by IBM, so their time is paid by IBM. They're from IBM Research, so I think doing joint research is already something they do. And so I don't think there was anything unusual in that. The PIs from the university are faculty, and they are funded through the seed funding. So nothing unusual as such, I would say.
Thanks.
So the agriculture would include food domain?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. So, I think it's fair to say we interpret agriculture very broadly in the name of the center. It's really agriculture, food, nutrition, public health, public policy related to any of these topics are all very much on
Economics also included, yeah.
economics included very much, yeah.
One thing we're not thinking is we're trying to steer clear of things that are already covered by an existing institute or something like that. So if you were talking, for example, about genomic responses to different nutrition, then IGB and Beckman already have a lot of work in that area. So we're looking for new things that have impact in the agricultural domain, but food certainly counts.
Yeah. And we had quite a bit of genomics research too. It's not that isn't part of it, but in fact, just like we work with NCSA, we can also work with IGB for some of the research funded for some of the research projects.
But if it's a kind of research that there's already large groups doing within funded groups like Abbott, CNLM, for example, we don't want to contribute more to ongoing research themes so much as create new ones.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned this already too. Since you don't want to invest much in capital equipment, there will be computing power available through NCSA for some of these projects, or can that be made available?
So
what's the right answer?
We could probably arrange access to the campus cluster, the NCSA campus cluster allocation. Beyond that, we can't really guarantee anything at this point. The allocations for Blue Waters have already been established at this point, but we can explore other possibilities.
And if you can make a strong case that this is, if you can make a strong case that this is a critical part of the research, and it's really what's needed to enable the research, we would certainly consider it. But
one more question. So if we needed some technical support around coding or trying to make sure that the software is functioning properly, is that something that the NCSA would be able to provide? Like not necessarily access to like the computers, but more so like real technical support?
It depends on how time intensive it would be. If it's just something small, we could probably figure out a mechanism. If it's something that's going to require more time, then I would suggest budgeting that as part of your seed funding budget. And if you need help, by the way, making those connections with folks at NCSA, please reach out to us because we can help with that.
So I think I'm not sure we've done this for this theme, but we've certainly done it in other collaborations where people have budgeted a small amount of an NCSA programmer or sysadmin or someone like that to help smooth things along. And it doesn't need to be a lot of that person's time, right? But anything that's a significant commitment is hard for us to put in place without that line item.
Sorry, I said you'd be able to maybe facilitate that type of connection if we were to reach out to you?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yeah, if you
thanks.
reach out to me, I can help connect you to the right person.
So kind of, excuse me, along the same lines, we have tremendous trouble just getting some of our video and images into the cloud here. I mean, I gave up after 1 month of FTP with concurrent sessions in 3 different buildings. Can you guys help with stuff like that?
I think we could. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do we have to budget for it, or are you going to do it?
We would probably need to find some funding for that, but we can talk more if you have a specific.
Well, it's like 10 terabytes of stuff I need to figure out how to get in the cloud, and it's unbelievably challenging here.
Yeah.
So it depends a bit, I think, on what exactly the problem is, and some things, if it's actually a technical problem that needs somebody to set up new portals or new servers, that's probably something we'd need to budget. But it may be something as simple as, if you had your person doing this work in the NCSA building, NCSA tends to have better bandwidth than all.
Yeah, it's a pipeline problem is what it is. And we don't have anything faster than a gig down on the ag campus that I've found so far.
Yeah, I think NCSA's got 200 gigs, something like that. It's a fat pipe from here. So if you request space in this collaboratory, then that's something that we're not currently requesting a budget for, right? So we're planning to provide both a desktop computer and a desk for a researcher to be in the building.
Yeah. And that collaboratory, I don't think any of the proposals last year really took advantage of that, but that's the kind of opportunity that I would encourage you all to think about, because the point of it is to make it easier to get access to NCSA expertise, computational capability, and yes, then you can put in a little bit of money into the budget to pay for the NCSA time and resources. But then by having a student or somebody like that here at NCSA who can talk and work directly with staff in the building here, I think it could really facilitate that kind of project.
So, do you consider anything? Sorry. Do you consider anything correlated to the molecular simulation?
Good question.
Smaller scale.
What do you think?
If it has something to do with plant science or nutrition or microbiome or something like that, I think it's on topic, yeah.
Okay.
There's no reason that it wouldn't fit. I think the question is, what are the goals of the research?
Okay.
And if it would need to be something that was new and not already within, say, plants in silico or CABI or something like that.
Yeah.
So, quick question. When I look through the funded projects already, there's an absence of animals completely.
Yes.
And so, as an animal scientist, just wondering if there is expertise in the review panel for the appreciation for what's coming from the animal side versus the crop side.
So, let's say that's a delicate subject. We do have expertise, and we will have expertise again. We did have last year also. I won't say too much other than to say it might have actually hurt and not helped. Some of the animal science proposals. So don't read too much into that, but we would actually like to encourage more participation from animal science research, because we really wanted to spread it around to all these domains, and at the end it turned out that none of them were funded, but that was not at all intentional.
So we'd like to do something about
Yes, and so I'd really like to encourage more proposals from us.
So that's why I wanted to ask, because that is actually our culture. We tend to be very harsh on ourselves, and that's shown on the USDA side as well, so that's not surprising. Just wanted to ask.
I see. Okay.
I guess I have one along the same line. The last submission that I put in, it was for $50,000. Were we $25,000 limited last time around?
No.
50 last time.
So now you're encouraging a resubmission, but twice the work and half the money, or just half the work and half the money?
I think the point is that based on the intermediate reports that we've seen for the research so far, in most cases, there's really been one student involved in the work and not two. And the 25,000 can easily cover one student because there's no tuition, there's no overhead, and so on. So our sense was that 25,000 would have been appropriate for for many of the funded projects last year. And secondly, we are basically at some point going to run out of seed funding. And so we decided that we would reduce the budget limits this year. If you really have a strong case for why you need 2 students or you need more than 25,000, then you shouldn't hesitate to make it. And you're also welcome to talk to us ahead of time to discuss it before you submit your proposal.
Okay, thank you. The reason why I bring it up is that some of these, we're encouraging multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary work. One student is, it requires more expertise than one PhD student can ever hope to provide in a case like that.
You're right. That was the thinking behind the 50,000 limit last year, that we would have students, one from each domain, at least one from 2 different domains each. But for various reasons, that is not the way the research has progressed. And maybe that was part of the problem, that there hasn't been as much participation from the 2 sides. But so I think part of it is we're learning as we go. We'll see how it goes this time.
We did actually also split some of the projects last time.
Yes. So there were 3 projects, I think, right?
Yes.
Where they applied for 50, which is what everybody did, and we only awarded 25.